tech tool, if you will, this week is called the Hemingway App, named aptly after Ernest Hemingway, and you'll see why here in a little bit. This is just hemingwayapp.com. As you can see, this is a place where students can either type their essays originally, or they can either copy and paste from a Google Doc or a Word doc or wherever they're originally typing into this program. So when you go to the website, this is what appears. It says the Hemingway app makes your writing bold and clear. And then as you can see, it's got all these different colored highlights. So light blues looking for adverb usage, greens looking for passive voice, purple's looking for phrases, difficulty of sentences to read is in that yellow color. And then if a sentence is very hard to read, it shows up in that red. So let me just show you some examples. And it also gives you, readability score by grade level. So for instance, if I go to the Poetry Foundation and take this poem by Lewis Carroll, The Jabberwocky, which for those of you who have ever taught English for that matter, you know that this is just a nonsense poem. It's full of onomatopoeias, some beautiful imagery, but it doesn't make a whole lot of actual sense when you're looking at the English language. So if I get rid of everything that shows up here, maybe, and then paste in my poem by Lewis Carroll, you can see this nonsense poem is in second grade readability, which actually does make a lot of sense. But what also makes no sense is that it can't even analyze this for adverbs, passive voice, anything, because of the format that it's in. So that's just an interesting first thing to look at. Secondly, go ahead and get rid of that. I have an essay written by one of my 8th graders last year when we read The Diary of Anne Frank. So I can take her essay, copy it back to the Hemingway app, paste it in, and sure enough, you can see the quote-unquote flaws. This is one of the better essays that I read, but it does, analyze it for all those things we already talked about. So something that this student could work on is definitely passive voice. So we have those 3 usages of passive voice. So in this time, Jews were persecuted. It should be Nazis persecuted the Jews. Anne was treated harshly. Again, passive voice rather than active voice. We have some readability issues, and we have some adverbs and phrases, little things to work on. But all in all, solid 8th grade level essay written by an 8th grader. So this is kind of validating that the Hemingway app does work pretty well. Next, we'll look at A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway himself. We'll just go with, book 1 from this passage. Go back to our app. Paste that in. And you can see Hemingway himself is listed as grade 13. So not sure how they figured that out, but college freshman. It's not without its flaws. You have some sentences that are hard to read. One example of passive voice, it was checked, and in the end, only 7,000 died of it in the army. So again, lots of even the best writers in the world have things that they could have improved or they might have been in need of certain editing skills that they might not have had access to. So this app, I find it wonderful. This is something that I actually did by hand. Both Miss Troncone and I in 8th grade, we used to go through our Google Doc essays and analyze for these things and many others, as I'm sure most English teachers or teachers of writing do. But yeah, to have an app that kind of helps them see some of those pitfalls right away, that's pretty awesome. So with that being said, I highly recommend the Hemingway Editor app. I think it's simple, it's free, and it is extremely time effective. Rather than you having to look for those examples of passive voice, you now have an app that can do it for you with a couple of clicks of a button. Control C to copy, Control V to paste it in. So the next tool that we're going to look at is called NoRedInk.com. Admittedly here, I haven't used NoRedInk in a while, and they've kind of gotten stingy with what they'll allow teachers to have access to without paying for the subscription service. But what I like about NoRedInk is that it allows you to have the students sign in using their Google accounts, and then they kind of get to create customized learning paths. So when we looked at the Hemingway app, everything was about, okay, analyzing these are the things you need to work on. So for instance, if that student that we saw who had an 8th grade level paper, that student had 3 examples of active and passive voice that needed to be worked on, maybe as a teacher then I can prescribe NoRedInk work on the website using active and passive voice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look here, view NoRedInk as a student. I don't have a class code or anything, so I'm just going to practice on my own. Again, this would look completely different from a teacher's perspective, but we have, as you can see, active and passive voice. So if I click on that, I could do identifying, is this sentence active or passive? I can do practice. I'm going to skip right over the lesson, So skip this tutorial and begin. The book with the red cover was written by Ron Weasley's drama teacher. That's the other cool thing about NoRedInk is it lets the students pick some of the subject matter that they're interested in. It could be athletes. It could be, fictional characters. It could be fictional characters from movies, TV shows, books, you name it. They've got it, and they're constantly expanding that. So was written, that's passive. Okay, so it lets me know if I got it right. Oliver Wood listens to pop songs in the shower. That's active. It's telling me who's doing the action. Look at that. Already made it through level 1. Hermione Granger's movie has been seen by the drama students twice. That's passive. Peter Pettigrew buys new shoes once every 3 months. That's active. And I'm not going to keep going through here, but again, NoRedInk is pretty nice. Very much so like an IXL or a Study Island where it's progressive and the questions vary based off of the student's learning path again. But the cool thing about NoRedInk is, again, that prescriptive nature. You can just tell kids to go online and work on the things that, you've pointed out as their, areas for growth in their essays. There's a lot of room for, again, adapted learning paths. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but NoRedInk.com, wonderful, wonderful website. Again, the one gripe that I have with NoRedInk is just that they put a lot of it behind a paywall so that they can maximize their profits during the pandemic. But other than that, it is an awesome resource. All right. So the third and final website that I'm going to share today is Pic-Lits.com. P-I-C, like picture, and then lits, L-I-T-S, like literature.com. As you can see when you come to the landing page, it's got a bunch of really interesting looking photos, including this one here of a, Volkswagen stuck in a wall. But anyways, if I go to create a Picklet, I'm going to first actually go down here to examples of, or actually types of Pick-Lits, to just kind of show you how this can be used. So ultimately, just like a meme or any kind of, photo on the internet that's been doctored with any kind of text, that's what Pick-Lits is all about. So again, maybe I just want my, lower level English students to write a simple sentence to go with the photo. Perhaps it's a paragraph response to something that they see in a photo. If you really want to make this interesting, there's advanced freestyle examples. So there's creative word placement. Pretty interesting. If you look at the camels there, so it says through the sand and dust. Oh, of course it moved. Marching on and on. Pretty interesting. You can do that. There's haikus, poems, keywords, quotations. So here they could, pick a background of their choosing and then put a quote on top of it. The cool thing about Pic-Lits is that when you're done, you can share them just as regular everyday photos that you can either have them turn in via Google Classroom. They can be shared, using some of the new interactive TVs that we have. Or, if they're good enough, you could even print them out and use them as posters in your room. So how does this fit in with what we've been talking about? As an English teacher or any kind of teacher, again, incorporating writing, I think it's really powerful. Some of the most important assignments that I did back when I was in, junior high or high school, I loved caption contests where the teacher asked you to come up with the best, 10-word caption for this photo, trying to be powerful, So what you could do, you could go to create a Picklet, choose a photograph. And again, Pick-Lits has an awesome gallery of, built-in, pictures. So if I go to 3, and then I actually was doing this a little bit ago, so I'm actually going to go to page 7, lucky number 7. I really like this picture of the lightning bolt, right? Striking down to the earth and that purple sky, pretty cool looking. So what I could do is I could click go to freestyle. And then maybe my prompt to the students is to find a quote that we really like. So this really is kind of open to interpretation at that point. So this is a Langston Hughes poem. Doesn't really fit perfectly, but maybe I just want that powerful message to be backed up by an awesome background. So God of dust and rainbows, help us to see that without the dust, the rainbow would not be. So again, not the perfect poem to fit there necessarily, but, trying to make this all make sense. You can do that in freestyle. Now, what you can do after you are finished, or once your students are finished, they can then click Options, Save. And as soon as that goes through, it can be downloaded. It can be sent via email. It can actually even be edited later on if they have an account and they save it. Or they can print it directly. So there's lots of cool choices there. So again, if you just download it, it's going to go directly to your computer, or in students' cases, their Chromebooks. It could then be uploaded into Google Drive if need be. But there you go. You just created your own interactive, well, not interactive necessarily, but your own custom image where you've taken a stock background and put in a quotation. So again, this could be done with captions, sentences, you name it, you can do it. Just a fun little, writing improver, if you will, by practicing and incorporating real world examples that the kids enjoy.